Today, we're going to be focusing on 3-bet pots and not only how we're supposed to play it according to a solver, but how we're supposed to play it in real tournaments. So let's get right into it. All right, this is the spot cutoff. We're facing a 3-bet here from the small blind. Let's get right into it. We are around 30 big blinds deep. And usually what people would do if they're in the early stages, middle stages, so like a lot of different stages in a tournament, they would pull up a chip EV range in order to have an orientation, which is not bad. It's better than nothing and trying to guess, but there's a more accurate way in order to solve these spots. Again, it's fine, but what I'm also trying to preach for many years that in tournaments, you need to consider your edge, you need to consider your future game, as well as the impact of ICM, which exists at any stage of the tournament. Now, over the last 1 to 2 years, we've been doing more research and we recently launched some more ICM adjusted preflop ranges for all sorts of stages of a tournament. And I know not all of you can afford that, so I want to share some crucial concepts here for free that you can incorporate in your game in order to avoid punts, spots where you lost post-flop because you made a bad preflop decision that could have been avoided in the first place. And a lot of the spots where we lose a lot of chips very often begin by defending poorly versus 3-bets in tournaments. So here we have a typical chip EV range. You see here it's a 1000 runner tournament. 50% of the field are left, 30 big blinds average. So this is the typical chip EV range, GTO range. If you're new to this, it basically gives you the perfect solution for playing preflop, assuming that your opponent is also playing the perfect strategy. So we always want to make adjustments. And as you can see here, we defend really wide. I mean, we're cut off versus small blind. Ranges can still be relatively wide. Let's have a look how small blind is supposed to play this spot so we can keep that in mind for later on. He's supposed to 3-bet 9.6%. Not too much suited hands 3-betting. He's also jamming a lot of these orange hands and 3-betting a lot of these red marked hands. So if we go back, you can take a screenshot if that helps, if it helps you. Now, if we consider that there's payout structures, that at some point the bubble begins, even though it's relatively far away, to me, I've always had the impression that a lot of these defense just don't feel right. Like Queen 9 suited, Ace 6 suited. I mean, you need to understand that these ranges are basically chip EV ranges with antes. Don't worry if you're one of the tournament masterclass, they're way more accurate. I've always considered the impact of ICM. I've always considered population tendencies in order for you to avoid these marginal spot, or actually it's not even marginal, it's not profitable, you're losing money. But we cannot cover in one range view all sorts of different stages, right? This is where here, if you want to take it to the next level, you can practice all sorts of different stages, so you're not just playing static ranges. So here, boom, you see much tighter. And hear me out, it's gonna get even crazier if we have a look at the small blind ranges. So we overall fold more, but if you remember, if you look at the jamming percentage here, actually 2/3 of all of the hands we're defending, we're going all in with. So overall we fold more, but we play a more aggressive strategy. This is not necessarily good, and I would not necessarily advise you to play so aggressive. We should play tighter, and hands that are marked as jams, I think are much better as a call, because typically the population, especially if you play in weaker fields, are not 3-betting as much as they're supposed to. So here, these ranges aren't perfect either. You need to make these additional exploits, and I'm going to share that with you. So again, if we go into the 3-betting range, we see here, remember we had 9% 3-betting from the small blind. Now we have 12.38%. To round it up 12%, typically you won't see such aggressive 3-betting going on from most opponents on average. So the counter strategy, jamming so aggressively, is not the ideal strategy. So here I would take it one step further. I would jam less, call more, and overall I would call less. Even less than ICM suggests here, and even fold out some of these King 9 suited, Queen 9 suited type of hands that are marked as calls, in order to consider that I would assume most people would play a 3-bet 11, 12%. And in some soft live games, if your opponent 3-bets you from the small blind, he literally has 4 aces on his hand, right? So it's very often very easy for us to make really good adjustments, and you should do so when you play tournament poker. So here we're already one step closer to what I would call playing real pre-flop tournament ranges and not just some solver ranges. That is a very important concept. And if you compare that here with what small blind, we see also way less jams, right? If you see here, we jam 5% with 30 big blinds. And this comes down to ICM telling you, try to protect your stack as much as possible. If you can be aggressive, try to do that with 3 bets and make your opponent fold a lot of hands as well. You see that especially with like 25, 30 and 40 big blinds, that under ICM consideration, basically in real tournament poker, we do way less all in than we would do under chippy V, where with 30 big blinds, you will see a lot of these queen 10 suited, jack 10 suited, pocket pairs all-ins. Here, yes, a lot of these chippy V, you see all of these all-ins. In ICM, it's 3-betting or calling, right? But then also trying to induce those jams from ace-5, ace-4 suited. It's not necessarily that ICM plays a more passive strategy, but you will also see way more inducing. But you will also see much more flatting with these suited broadways, or here even inducing with ace-queen off, right? Whereas in chippy V, he just wants to jam it. So this also allows us to 3-bet more as a bluff, and that's why we play over a more aggressive strategy. And especially in ICM, it makes a lot of sense. In these days, what are the first hands that come to your mind that you want to 4-bet jam as a bluff, right? Most people understand it's going to be ace-5 suited, ace-3 suited, ace-4 suited. So there's so much more EV in inducing a jam with a hand like ace-queen off, because also you get calls from queen-jack suited, king-queen off, and it plays really well post-flop. So a lot to learn here, a lot of takeaways where you start grasping the main concept of an ICM and how it impacts our ranges. What I really personally like is seeing that we want to stay away from these deep jams that are very often marginal, and we might win half a big blind, a quarter big blind in the long term by risking 25, 30, 35 big blinds, which is absolutely insane to me. We do see here when we face a 3-bet that now we jam more, because now we can win way more, right? With the open raise and reshoving 30 big blinds, we can only win 4 big blinds, 5 big blinds, 6 big blinds, depending on the size of the antes and depending on the size of the open raise. But now facing a 3-bet, you will see that a lot that ICM then understands now it's really worth playing an aggressive counter strategy with lots of all-ins, because now we we risk our remaining 28 big blinds to win those, what is in the middle, 7, 9, 10, 9 to 12 big blinds depending on the 3-bet size. So it's a much better risk reward ratio. So yes, we still risk a lot, but now we can win more. And when you can win very little, usually ICM doesn't want to risk a lot and uses way more 3-betting. I really encourage you to run some money bubble situations. You will also see way more 3-betting with smaller stack sizes. Also something you will learn here if you're the lucky owner. You will see way more 3-betting with 12 big blinds, 15 big blinds in heavy ICM situations. The higher the ICM pressure, and you will see that the closer you get to 30% left money bubble, the more you do 3-betting with 12 big blinds and you're not committed, because the ICM pressure makes you not committed to an all-in. And you have way more wiggle room and room to maneuver with these smaller stack size. And then you will also learn how you can take advantage and playing back against big stacks that open 10-7 off, jack 8 off, jack 7 off around the money bubble. And you're literally printing money, and you will survive the bubble more often as a bigger stack than just, yeah, you make it in the money, then you're 3 big blinds and you're out. I get this a lot. Hey Ben, you know, I actually play solid in the early mid game, but I'm not really able to run it deep. That's one of the reasons where people have no clue how to play a mid stake, and that there's still a lot of things that you can do in order to also accumulate chips around the bubble. Super important concept. So let's sum it up. Defend tighter. In theory, in ICM theory, we want to be jamming a lot against 3-bets. However, I would not advise this in real tournament poker. If you play against someone aggressive, you see it's a viable and very profitable strategy, and then you should do so. But if you're not really sure, just call, it's fine. Again, I would against most players even fold the king 9 suited, 10 9 suited, ace 10 of these hands here, because again, I assume that people are 3-betting less in practice. Also, as the small blind 3-better, try to induce more with ace queen off, pocket 9s with 30 big blinds to get those jams from the lower pocket pairs and lower suited aces. Yeah, and I hope you learned more concepts here around 3-betting. And now And this is super important in poker. When you see one spot, mirror this knowledge onto all the other positions. You can literally now solve 60% left, 50%, 40% left, a crucial phase of the tournament. Like basically all these kind of stages around half of the field left. And when you see now the adjustments we make, cutoff facing a 3-bet versus small blinds, you can apply this for hijack versus small blind, middle position versus small blind. Go a little bit tighter, even for under the gun facing 3-bets for middle position. When you see the chippy V ranges, you know that you should go 1/3 tighter, like you fold way more, and you at least play way more accurate ranges than the solver is telling you only in chippy V and not considering ICM. This is going to be a major improvement in your preflop game. You will be less involved in tricky situations post-flop, less hero calling, or on average having a stronger hand.